Being from a third world country, you see a lot of shit happening all over. But you never think it's going to happen to you. After all, you're careful and you know better, and you mind your own business and everything's going to be 5 by 5. My mom is one of the strongest women I know. She's one of 15 siblings, which I think has toughened her up and made her a woman of strong morals and a no-nonsense attitude. She's one of the oldest of her siblings, so she has that nurturing mama bear thing. She'll take crap from no one, and when confronted with fight or flight, she'll fight every single time. Like the one time my mom was picking up my sisters from kindergarten and some asshole tried to snatch her purse. She took notice of him walking towards her with no good intentions, and she told my sisters to hold on to her skirt when the man tried to make his move. She just pressed her thumbs against his eyes and scratched him wherever she could. She's gotten mellow later in life, however, but for me, she is still the epitome of love and strength. But this is the story of how I almost lost her to road rage. I was 10. It was a Sunday, and I had gone to the swimming pool with my friends. My dad was supposed to pick me up at around 5 p.m. By 7 p.m., I was fuming, angry, and I decided to walk back to my house. It was probably a 20-minute walk. I got home and was mad, and my sisters were scolding me because it was dark and dangerous for a 10-year-old to be walking back on his own, and that dad had gone to pick me up like 5 minutes ago. I didn't care. I was pissed off. I just walked into my parents' room to give my mom a piece of my mind because I couldn't tell dad off, and I found her sobbing and in distress. I asked her what was going on. She was angry at my dad, and she didn't want to talk to him again. My anger faded, and soon my curiosity struck instead. It turns out that around 4:30 p.m., when my dad was going to go pick me up, he was coming back from his farm, and some dude cut him off, and Dad, who unfortunately has some road rage, honked his horn, pulled down the window on my mom's side, and yelled out a bunch of obscenities. The dude in the other car lowered his window, pulled out a gun, and started shooting at my dad's car. My dad hit the brakes and let the other car pull farther away. They stopped and got out of the car to catch their breath, and that's what my mom saw in the space between the passenger front door and the passenger back door. A bullet nearly missed my mother's head, and she was hysterical. They got home, and Mom broke down, and Dad had to calm her down, and thus he was pretty late for picking me up. It's probably not as scary as some of the other stuff people have posted here, but the thought that I may have lost my mom at 10 scared me shitless. It's been 20 years since that day, and sometimes it randomly pops up into my head, and I have to talk myself off of that ledge when I wonder, what if? I live in a cabin on about 50 acres of fields and woods with my mom. We've been enjoying a day of sitting on our asses and watching television. However, I had to mow my grandmother's yard this afternoon. I told my mom that I had a yard to mow today, and it went as follows. Me. It's cooler outside. I guess it's a good time to get off my ass. Mom. Or you can just call and tell her that you'll do it tomorrow. Me. Nah, I'm gonna go get my things and go. I proceed to grab my headphones, my e-cig, etc. So I head down the driveway, top the hill. Lo and behold, there were at least 20 MS highway patrol cars in the middle of the field, about 70 feet from my truck. I had just assumed that our neighbor, who had a history of cutting up, had gotten himself into huge trouble with the law over some drugs or something. When I was pulling out of the gate, I told one of the local cops that I'm the landowner, and I asked if everything's alright. He said, "It's going to be." Whatever that means. On the way to my grandmother's house, I called my mom and said, "I don't know if there's any other way to put this, but there are like 100 cops in our field." She said that she's on the way to check it out. I called her a few times with no answer, and I assumed that she was talking to the cops or something. I knew she'd be safe with all those cops, so I went ahead and started mowing the grass. Plus, my grandmother is only a couple of miles down the road. When I was about halfway done mowing, she called me saying that the troopers had nothing to say, but one of the local cops that we knew said that it was this guy who was wanted in Texas for shooting 3 people, killing 2 and injuring 1. The guy drove into our field and shot himself after being confronted and surrounded by troopers. When I was done mowing, I headed home to pick her up, and we drove back to talk to the last few troopers. I told them that I'm the property owner and asked if it was all clear and everything's safe now. They said that they had just moved the body and car out, so it's clear. I said, "Wow, all the way from Texas, huh? Well, be safe. Thanks." We drove over to the site after the troopers left. Right behind our old pecan tree were a bunch of tire treads and a giant bloody spot in the grass. We are still in a state of what the fuck. Going by the press conference we just watched as I was typing this, the guy shot himself as I was going up my driveway. I didn't even hear the gunshot or sirens, but I remember having my radio turned up. So, Randall Lee Burroughs, I'm glad we didn't meet. A couple of years back, when I was in college, I was the victim of a long-term stalker. This is a pretty long story and really builds on itself. I have to cut down a bit more on this to be coherent, but I have not changed any of the facts. And just to clarify, I am a male, and I was 20 at the time. So it started out fairly innocuous on Valentine's Day. I started to receive secret admirer type texts from an unknown number. I assumed it was a friend of mine playing a joke, as I was in a room with a handful of tech-savvy people at the time. I tried to gauge their reactions and asked if anyone was messing with me. They all denied it, and I believed them, as they're pretty bad liars, so I can tell when they're lying. It was further confirmed that it was none of them when I got a phone call from the number, and a voice on the other end said, "Is this?" and my name. I replied, "Yes, who's this?" hoping I could identify the voice. At that point, they hung up and resumed texting. At the time, a lot of my friends lived together, and the people who didn't live there and enjoyed pranks weren't really committed or knowledgeable enough to sign up for a fake number texting service. Things started getting weird when the person began asking pretty personal questions, included repeatedly asking, "Are you doing something tonight?" To which I replied, "Yes," as I was working, but they kept insisting we should meet up. On top of this, I was getting various images sent to me from a separate email, whose parentheses username at textmenow.me. This confirmed that it wasn't a real number, and I now had a username to connect to the person. I don't know if it was their intention, but I actually enjoy trying to figure out shit like this, and took it upon myself to expose this person without giving away anything about myself. So I kept it up. I texted them back for a while and dug more and more information about the person, compiling it into a profile and eliminating possibilities. Unfortunately, this just encouraged them, as they insisted I send pictures. "Take pics. Come on, pics add to the conversation," etc. Then they sent a weird one. It was a white lacy dress hanging in their closet with the accompanying text, "My wedding dress for when I marry you," with various hearts and love emojis. "Come on, I want a pic of your reaction." I simply replied, "No." "Why not? Please? Pics of your surroundings, please? Your room? Your face? Anything?" I replied, "You gotta tell me who you are, otherwise I'm definitely not sending you any pictures. I'm not telling you who I am until I feel comfortable." You gotta be fucking kidding me. You're the one who's uncomfortable? They continued to pry about where I was going to be that evening, and I still refused to give details. Then they dropped where they were going to be, a party on campus that night. I couldn't go regardless, as I was working. I should also mention that the texting conversation was all over the place. It was almost like 3 different people were all trying to talk to me about different things at once. Again, I was bombarded with personal questions about past relationships and what kind of girl do you find yourself most attracted to. There was a little bit more back and forth. Not too interesting. And then I got another bombshell. They asked if I lived in apartment 68, which I did. I lied. Close, but not quite, I said. Oh, I could have sworn. Where do you live then? Are you involved with anyone at the moment? I recognized the style of apartment that they were in based on a picture from earlier, so I decided to throw a curveball. Hey, you live in this complex, right? What? How do you know? I recognize the door, I said. All the shitty apartments had the same colored door frame, which was visible in the edge of the picture they sent. The conversation kind of fizzled out here, and I didn't go to that party and didn't get any more texts. Among the pictures they sent me were some screenshots of my Facebook, photos of their bed, a pipe, some posters, and a lot of other pretty boring stuff. So that was February. Fast forward to October in the following school year. I was a senior and busy as fuck. One evening I got a text from an unknown number. Is this my full name? So I played dumb, pretending like I wasn't freaking out that after this many months this person was trying to contact me again. And I still hadn't figured out who it was. These questions were instantly more personal and really weirded me out. Don't ruin the fun. Not knowing who I am is part of the mystery. I won't tell you who I am, not now. Too much to lose. I don't want you to know. Not because I'm being cruel. It's just better if you don't know. That doesn't even make any sense. Trust me, you don't want to know. You're better off not knowing. Trust me. Okay, whatever then. Why are you texting me again? Are you mad at me? I just have no one to talk to. Does my personhood really matter? Can't we talk about something else? Like what? I'm pretty tired of this shit and trying to work, but I do want to see if I can pick up on any more details about this person. So I'm doing the bare minimum to keep this going. Do you celebrate Halloween? I guess I'm boring you. I have a better question. Have you ever been in love? No. How do you know if you never experienced it? For a response so extreme, you'd think you've experienced it before. But I guess it's a matter of perspective. You must be a godly man, then. These texts are coming so fast I can't even keep up. Was that too harsh? Huh? What a response. Bye. Followed by explosion and violin emojis. The next day, around the same time, I get another text. Keep in mind the person is referring to their friend, but I honestly believe this friend was probably made up. I was talking to my friend about you today. Who's your friend? Don't you want to know what we talked about? Yeah, sure. Then like 3 hours later they replied, we talked about how you seem like the kind of person to fall in love easily. You're such a sap. Not in a negative way though, it's just an observation. Like you're wishing for the one. I just replied, all you care about is finding my identity. That would be the most awkward thing ever. Why are you so eager? Wouldn't you be weirded out? No, probably not. That was a lie. We've been in class before. What year? Maybe if you got to know me, you'd figure it out. Okay, then tell me about yourself. Hey, why didn't you comment about the observation my friend and I made? Come on, say how you feel. What does that mean? Say how you feel. This makes me uncomfortable. You never answer any of my questions. I started messing with them, asking really random questions. This made them really mad. Do you like cats? I asked. Do you like long walks on the beach? I live by the beach. Which one? A famous one. A lot of people have sex on the beach right under the blanket of night. Near a city? How do you like the state and town I'm from? How do you know I'm from there? The internet is my best friend. Are you nervous? You're just a boy. You're so boyish. Let's admit it's nothing bad. It's cute. How old are you? You haven't figured that out already? When's your birthday? The month and day, please. Tell me it now. I just want to know your sign. I'm a Virgo. OMG, I like Virgos. You're obedient and submissive like a puppy dog. Isn't that funny? I just laughed. Now I ask you a question. Have you been in a relationship before? Why did your relationship fail? I'm not telling you anything about this. This is so annoying. He then sent me a ton of different random photos from Google. My friend asked me to ask you something, but I don't think I will. What? Can I change subjects now? How was your day? Mine was bad. I don't want to relive it again. It was something I did wrong, so I only have to blame myself. She wanted to ask something intimate, but I'm not going to share. Since you don't like talking about that. It's extreme, and you're probably not going to answer. I feel sick asking it. Don't hate me, I'm just the messenger. I'm embarrassed. You're not going to answer. Me? I could. Okay, so... we really wanted to know if you're a virgin or not. Scratch the virgin part. Ever had intercourse is a better phrase, probably. Oh, I knew you wouldn't answer. I didn't answer, and then I didn't write anything else. That was all of October. This is December, the end of a semester. Hey! Who's this? I asked. It's me. I can tell you who I am when I leave the campus, as I'm never going to see you again. But I can tell you who I am. Me. Okay, tell me. When I leave this campus, I'm never going to see you again. I'm going to be gone. You're so serious. Hello? I'm leaving next week, so... You're ruining it, though. Now I want to punch you. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to send that last one. Oops. Then they proceeded to call me multiple times. I denied every call, but they just kept coming. I think there were 14 calls that night. Then a text from a new fake number. OMG. Sent free from textnow.com. Me? Please stop texting me. Then there were more calls. I then just turned my phone off. The following week I was in class. I TA'd. Students were presenting their final work on the projector, and I had queued multiple tabs on the projection computer. 2 different students had work on the Google Drive. When the second student logged into their account, they didn't open a private window, so I logged out the first student. I hope that makes sense. I saw this happen. But the first student wasn't in the room, so when she came back, I asked her to relog in. We're both standing in the projection booth. She was at one end of the computer, and I was messing with the sound system on the other side. But I happened to turn and look at the projector screen when she was logging into Google. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. The username she logged in with was the same username as the TextNow account that had been sending me the photos. I quickly turned away and pretended to be busy with something until she finished opening her work. I thanked her and she left the booth without realizing her mistake. I tried to play it cool, but inside I was going crazy for the rest of the class. After almost a year, I finally knew who it was. She had finally slipped up, and honestly, I was more scared now than I had ever been. This person had a history of being pretty creepy around my friends, and although she had never personally interacted with me outside of class, all my friends had strange experiences. Here are 2 such abbreviated incidents. My friend Michael was working endlessly on his thesis in the building. He was about 50 hours into a no-sleep work binge, and it's like 7 a.m. She walks in and starts working on a computer in the lab. Another guy, Dave, comes in and remarks about Michael. "You still here?" Michael replies, "I've been working for days. I'm starting to see things out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes I see a tall man in a suit." She immediately turns around and says, "You see him too?" Michael had no idea what to say, and Dave makes a joke about it being the ghost of this building. She doesn't say anything and goes back to work. Another friend of mine, Isaac, also worked late in this building, and sometimes would find her waiting outside the front door around 3 a.m., and she would follow him home. Occasionally, she showed up outside his door at night and demanded to be let in. One time, while I was actually at his place, she came to the back door with a peephole and knocked for an upwards of 20 minutes. We pretended not to be home and shut all the blinds on the front of the house and went upstairs. There's plenty more to tell about their interactions, including one where she attacked him at a party, but that's delving way into another story. So, point being, she kind of has a reputation in our friend group, and we generally try to keep our distance. I had always assumed that I was immune. Sorry to say, there's no real conclusion to this story. Someone advised me to file a complaint with the school and try to get a restraining order or something. I figured if we all talked to somebody and explained our experiences, we could at least keep her from showing up at our front door. I made a meeting with a counselor who seemed to really care and offered to look into it. A couple of weeks later, they emailed me saying, "This student is going abroad next semester, so we're not going to do anything." I insisted that something temporarily be put into place, and that although I was graduating at the end of the year, Isaac would be resuming for one more year. Michael had graduated a year before me. They didn't do anything, but what did I expect? The school is pretty notorious for not giving a shit. I didn't run into her again, and she hasn't texted me since. And Isaac ended up taking a year off. So, for the time being, this is where the story ends. I was between him and the door. I remember looking past him and seeing a fish tank before hearing something and flinching.